Hello, I'm Niklaus Von Olde from the Creative Magazine, and welcome to our first politically creative conversation. Tonight, we're going to be discussing how our political views influence the art we create, and in return, how our art influences the politics that shape the world around us. Now, I'll be guiding a discussion, presenting questions, topics, and recent events, and tonight, I'm honored to be joined by Shantice Green, Alex Harper, Jeremy Monreal, Jordan Wilson, Sidney James, David Hardy, and Taylor Byers. Now, us millennials, we will shape this election. Our voter turnout will shape this election. Now, our voices matter, and we will undoubtedly shape a large part of our country's future. Now, to start out, I'm going to ask a question to anybody who wants to answer it. And the first one is this. With the political climate that we have today and the large polarization we see all over the country, do you think there's a chance that we'll come back together as a country, or do you think the gap will only widen? And secondly, do you believe that art could be that ultimate binder, or do you think something else will bring us together as a country if we do come together? Whoever wants to take that. Bad
I have
boy.
a question.
Yeah.
Just as in terms of like a reference point, because you said bring it back in unity.
Yeah.
So at what point was it ever really like?
I would say, when we first began in 1776, we sure wanted to be like all one, right? And then I would say during World War II, we were pretty much everyone supported the war, and we really came together to give our troops what we needed and give each other what we needed. And I think, honestly, today in 2016, we're more polarized than we've ever been. I think hate, it just wears a mask. I think hate still lives in a lot of people, and I'm just curious if we'll ever come together. I wonder if an event will bring us together. I wonder if a person will bring us together.
I think that it's happened, but I feel like I think the question would be more suited for, will it stay?
Yeah. Do you think it's happened?
9/11.
Yeah, 9/11 brought us together.
9/11,
I don't
like,
think 9/11 brought us together.
oh yeah, I remember that specifically. Everyone didn't care what you looked like.
Everyone didn't care what you look like unless
That's
you
true.
look like the terrorists that attacked
Yeah.
9/11. No matter if they were born in the country or not.
That was weeks after. I'm talking about that day.
Yeah.
I remember specifically being in class.
Oh, so that specific day.
That specific day, we were all one.
Well, I remember.
what I'm saying?
I remember that day because my grandma is Indian. I remember that day, and like for months after, even years to be honest, of her feeling like she doesn't want to tell her religion, and she didn't even want to go outside for a while. So I don't think that day, like when if that, as soon as it went down, and if there was a Muslim that was walking down the street, that he wasn't being terrorized as well. So
I agree. I agree, but I'm talking about that day. Like I specifically remember being in junior high, and there was this person who just got to this country. She was my teacher in Arizona, where I'm from. Hi, I'm from Chandler, Arizona. What's up, y'all? But I remember that day. She was Vietnamese, and she cried. I never realized how much this place was so influential for her. She said they attacked here. Those people died here. Like I just remember everyone just like saying like, what's happening? The communication, because I think I'm just a little bit older than the majority of you guys, and I remember that day so specifically because I remember like there was planes. There used to be planes all over the sky, and it just stopped.
Everything stopped.
And everyone called each other. Everyone checked in with each other. But then America came back as to like we're all against one person.
And the fear
went up. But I'm talking about those like 2 days of like you everyone glued to the TV, everyone watching New York and seeing all those people help each other.
Yeah.
Because my aunt was there and she was helping people.
And I was watching this thing about all the flights that got landed in separate cities. Those cities came together and helped everybody because like so many people were displaced. I mean, people were stuck in Kansas City, people were stuck in Toronto, people were stuck in Mexico City, people were stuck all over the world because flights weren't allowed in or out of America. And so it was cool to see America come together. It was the worst day of my life, obviously. Like, the worst thing we've experienced as a country in our lifetime. But it was great to see all of us come together, and that's what makes today so sad. That's what makes like the polarization that exists today so sad, because there's so much hate. There's that fool at the rally, at the Trump rally, that just like for sticking his fist up in the air got knocked in the teeth, got all his teeth knocked out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if this country can recover, and I got a lot of hope from Barack Obama, and I think a lot of people like Barack Obama, and he's got a 58% approval rating right now. You know what I mean? So like, if there was going to be a unifier, a lot of people like JFK, but JFK got killed. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but like, well, go ahead. So.
I just want to jump back to something Trey said earlier about when was it ever great, or when were we ever? When were we ever unified?
Yeah.
I think that is something super important and super unique to our generation. That our generation is now saying, like, I think 9/11 did bring us together, but again, that's something that's like fueled by an act of hate.
Yeah.
That's not like our country just saying like, hey, like, let's
We
all be
belong.
together
Let's
now.
hug.
Yeah, that was generated through fear and through an act of hate. And I think recognizing like you cannot solve a problem if you refuse to acknowledge its existence.
yeah.
And I think just now we are saying like, were we ever great? Were we ever on the same team? And I think the answer, you have to acknowledge the answer is no in order to move forward.
Yeah.
And I think we can be the generation to do that.
Yeah, I really do think we're gonna be the generation to do that. But with the internet, that is just the biggest encyclopedia of everything that there is. You know, you could fall into the dark hole of the internet. You can find some really great shit on the internet. I have friends on Facebook that hate, like to the nth degree. They hate, and that's all they do is spew hate. And like, for African Americans, for Muslims, for people that don't look like them, for women. Oh my God, if I read the amount of sluts, bitches, that is posted on comments feeds, so, and these are by 22-year-olds, and so it kind of hurts my heart that like, I want to think that we are that change agent. I want to think that we are the enlightened generation, but like, I do think that we are the most diverse generation, at least before or more than any generation that came before us. So I think that helps, and I think gay marriage is something that's pretty like acceptable all throughout our the millennial generation. But I do think there's that hate, and I'm curious what art will do to change that. I'm curious, like, if hate rap or if love rap is better. I'm curious if like because Harvey Weinstein said he's not going to produce any movies that have guns in them anymore, or like extreme gun violence. Harvey Weinstein owns this city. You know what I mean? But like, I still want to watch movies with guns in them. But like, maybe I don't deserve so, because like 500 people are getting shot since January in Chicago. So I'm just curious if you guys have how art kind of influences how you see the world, and how it can be the change agent, how us as artists can voice our opinions, and how we can put the art out there that invokes people want to speak up about change.
What's so interesting to me is that, like, at the end of the day, like, everything is about perspective.
Yeah.
Like, everybody has a perspective on everything, and I feel like even the play that I saw you in, that Anthony Mark Barrow directed, about the two, the white guys from New York picking on the guy that is Indian and barely speaks English. Like, there's a dire need to somehow show, like, whether it be in an uncomfortable way, there's a dire need for us to show like a form of humanity through art. And I think that, like, if anything, that's our responsibility as artists, is to somehow figure out, like, whether it be through like an experience we've experienced, or like a story we heard, or from one of these stories that are like flying off the freaking media stands and on social media, what's going on, like, if anything affects us, like we have to figure out a way to let that emotion out, because we're not the only ones feeling that emotion. And if we can somehow, whether it be like 5 people to 1,000 people to 100,000 people, 1,000,000 people, if we can somehow reach people and say like, hey, I feel this feeling too, like let's talk about it. That humanity is what we need, because if there's no conversation, then there's no solution.
Yeah.
And without the conversation,
Yeah.
then we don't figure out like how to solve the problem.
Mhm.
And what's so weird about with social media is because we're sitting here with social media, and everybody just wants to give an opinion. Like everybody just has an opinion about everything. And sometimes we side with people's opinions, and sometimes we're like, where the fuck did they get that
Yeah,
from?
yeah.
But we have to really like allow ourselves to sit with what's happening and figure out how it's affecting us, so that we can figure out like how that can help towards humanity as far as starting that conversation with other people.
And it's like, and seeing stuff from their point of view.
Yeah.
So, like,
it's
I'm-
a response. It's like fucking with actors. Like when we're sitting here in a scene, if I'm sitting with the scene with you, what's the scene if I'm not listening to the
Yeah,
monologue
exactly.
that you're giving me?
But half the country isn't listening. They're
Exactly.
worried about their own
And
posts.
that's the same
Yeah.
thing with the country, is that like
They care about their own
what
issue.
what is solving a problem if we're not willing to listen to the problem?
Yeah, yeah.
If
I
we're
feel
not
like
willing to listen to the
acknowledge it.
dialogue.
Yeah.
I think, sorry, you asked the question, you know, what art can be made to like unify us, and I think that art has been made and it is being made all the time
Yeah.
by people like us. It just doesn't sell,
Yeah.
as well as like sex, drugs, and violence does,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's what we see in the
And
movie
it's
theaters. You know,
entertaining.
not shit like this.
But I think, but I think our generation is really calling for it, and I feel like we need to be those people that continually do
Push it.
that, push the envelope. I mean, you can look at like the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s when "Do the Right Thing" came out. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? It was a conversation starter, because the ending is really not an ending. If you guys haven't seen it, if you haven't seen it, watch it. But I'm dead serious,
Do the
because
right
like
thing.
it's
David's
because
talking to all y'all. out there.
I'm being so serious. Like, movies is like my thing.
Yeah.
And every single decade has a mirror of, like, if you watch a movie during the '90s, you could tell like, oh, we're definitely understanding what America is. And then you go in the '80s, you're like, something's different. You go to the '70s, and black people are having more of a voice. Chinese Americans are having more of a voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like if we continue to not be afraid, I feel like we're like, oh, it's not making money.
Yeah.
There's so many artists that came before us who didn't care. Like, look at Steven Spielberg. Like, he didn't care. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? George Lucas put all of his money into Star Wars when no one else wanted to get it.
Spike Lee.
Spike Lee and Quentin Tarantino, like, these
Yeah.
people didn't care about money. They're like, I have something to say,
Yeah.
and I'm going to say it.
There's
and
a
the
story
audi-
to tell.
Exactly, and I feel like that.
Well, I guess what I was saying when I meant sell was, I mean, it's not reaching a
The
broader
masses.
audience. It's reaching, you know, us.
Yeah, because handshakes don't sell. Sex does. You know, like, honestly, like, sex sells. That's what they say. Like, so, how do you be... that's our problem, or that's our struggle as artists, is how do we be powerful, but how do we be enticing?
It's so tricky because I feel like it's always the good versus evil thing. Like, I don't know.
Well, when have you read the newspaper where like a positive headline
Yeah, right.
sells like the most newspapers?
Or the
like,
news.
Yeah,
Like,
you
I
always
literally won't watch the news because
it just
hurts.
makes you
Yeah, it does
sad, and
hurt.
that is our own problem as a society, where we're like feeding on this negative beast, and that's what we are like wanting to read. Like, we keep talking about we're the generation that wants to enact change, but how are we going to enact change on the small pocket of people who refuse to see that change needs to be had?
Yeah.
For a small pocket of America, and maybe it's bigger than any of us want to think, change doesn't need to be had. America is great. America's doing exactly as it needs to, and that's that, and that's the end. But for people who are awake and breathing and watching and actively listening, that's not the case. We're all seeing that there's huge problems that need to be addressed. How do we talk specifically to people who don't think that there's a problem. How the hell do you talk to those people?
I think it gets to the point where we have to start. I think, to be honest, and I've been kind of grappling with this concept and opinion for a while, of trying to identify whether there's a difference between unify and coexist. And I think sometimes those get blended together, but along with like equality and justice. And I'm not sure if those can play hand in hand. Like I can't know what you feel like, because unfortunately, though you're like one of my close friends, you have a disadvantage, or you have an advantage to me right off the gate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it can't be equal.
Yeah.
How can it be equal? Especially within the times that we're living in now and the generations that came before us. There's no way that we can be equal. So we can either have justice and we can coexist, but how can we unify if how can we unify and be equal if we don't start on the same
But
playing ground?
but I
Yeah.
believe if you acknowledge just that disadvantage that you have, therefore there's a step. I mean, I went to this diversity camp in which I also got training on, and then I also was a counselor of. We started in this line, and everyone starts there, and then they ask questions of like your upbringing. And there was a lot of people who didn't look like me that had a huge advantage just from the gate,
Yeah.
from the jump, and they had no idea.
Yeah.
But once they acknowledge that, like, yo, like there are people behind me that I didn't even know. And there's so many people that are today that feel like they're like, oh, everyone's starting off in the same spot in which they have no idea. They're like I'm starting way behind you, but I don't have that as an excuse. That's just motivation for me. But if you acknowledge that there's definitely a disadvantage, I think that's a good step forward of like, okay, what can I do to help the situation? Not saying like I need to do a charity case, but more like just have an acknowledgement of it and have that dialogue of like, what can I do to help? Not to be and you don't need to like be a hero. Just be like, I just want to help.
And I think that's kind of been my biggest problems with everything that's going on right now, because there's, like you said, there's so many people with opinions, but all these people that consider themselves allies to people of color and minorities, none of them, or not none of them, but a lot of them are not speaking up. But
I
then
feel
we
that.
can
I
say
definitely understand that.
you're an ally, you're my friend, but how come you're not speaking up when
Exactly.
your friend is saying some bullshit to the side?
Exactly.
And you laugh it off awkwardly because you don't want to mess up or have
Yeah.
friction with that person. So I think these type of conversations happen when allies step up to the plate. And I'm not saying that you got to put yourself on Front Street, but I'm saying that you got to check the people that are in your circle that are doing fucked up shit.
Yeah,
You
that's
know
the
what I
thing,
mean?
is it's tricky because, so I'm white, middle class, white boy from rural Nevada. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like I know what it's like. All my homies are country. Like it's like not, the struggle is not real in my upbringing. But I know, living in LA now for 5 years and being friends with a lot of people who have gone through some shit, I know that the struggle is real for a lot of people in America, right? And unfortunately, but fortunately, I think some of the dopest art comes out of the biggest struggle. So like,
Oh, yeah.
that's why you're like one of my favorite rappers. You know what I mean? Because like your shit's real.
Yeah,
You know,
he's a
opposed to
rapper.
like some rich kid. You know, but like, it's hard because like I don't know. I sometimes I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't know like what the fuck
But
to
I
say.
think
Like
that's when you don't say anything. Like, I've learned the most from listening to my friends who have experienced things that I haven't
Yeah.
experienced. And I have learned firsthand that sometimes it's not important for me to speak at all. It's just important to listen.
But I think we need to speak up about the injustices that are happening as white folk.
Oh,
because
I think he meant like to people who may not like the other.
yeah, I don't know what to
Oh,
say.
yeah.
I sometimes.
But you were talking about the other side.
I
The
was
other
like,
side.
I'm just trying to be on the team. You know what I'm saying?
But like that's the
team
tricky
that's
part. Is
winning.
like it's kind of like it's kind of.
The team that's winning.
But like
The team
I
that's
want to
winning.
be on the team of like.
Humanity.
We're all
Yeah.
like, yeah, I like what you said. Like I'd rather coexist you know, let's coexist first, then let's unify.
Exactly.
yeah.
You know
and
what I
I
mean?
think and that's not even not to say that like we can all coexist in
Yeah.
love. You know what I mean? I think that is a true statement that I can stand by. But right now, knowing that we're not necessarily equal, then I can't say that we can unify and have equality because it's just not there in my vision.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that's just me being slighted or having some kind of bias because
No, I feel
of how my people have been treated for years and
I
years
don't
and
think
years.
that's a bias. I think that's just like
It's just
fact.
facts. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I
So,
think that's
but the
just
thing is,
fact.
like, in terms of like, you don't know what to say. Just tell your perspective. If you are my homeboy, and then you got one of your homeboys that are saying some
Yeah,
sideways
exactly,
shit,
exactly.
and you be like, yo, listen, this is where I'm coming from. Let's
Yeah.
have a conversation about this of why you feel this way,
And you
then
know-
sparking the conversation, even if it doesn't have a type of resolution, that's fine because now they are able to go home and think about the conversation that you guys just had. And I think so many people are scared of the conversation, and
Yeah.
that's going back to what you said about like the 90s. There was so many dope movies that came out, especially
Higher
black
Learning.
independent
Bruh.
films
Fucking
that
higher
was so
learning.
dope.
Fucking, that's perfect for right now.
And it was
no, but
crazy.
everybody
and
needs
it was
to watch
and it was
Higher
crazy.
Learning.
And it was crazy though because like say like the dude that wanted to be part of the KKK so bad, or not, he was like a skinhead or whatever the case
Yeah.
may be. He wanted to be a part of it so bad, but it was done to the point where you kind of sympathize for him in a little, in a sense, to at least to me. Where I,
To
like,
belong somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
to where he
'Cause I
wanted
think
to
that's
feel a
part
part
of
of a
the
group,
human
and so
nature.
then
It
at
is,
that
yeah.
point he did, and then he just went full fledged.
Yeah.
And I understand that feeling as well as I understand the feeling of wanting to rebel against that,
Yeah.
especially if you are hating on my people.
But
Well,
see,
I think
but you see,
a
that's
lot of
my
shit
thing.
comes out of fear. I think
Yeah.
fear is huge, and I
But-
think anger comes out of fear, and I think some of the best art comes out of fear. So I'm go ahead actually. Go
No,
ahead.
but see, like, I feel like it goes all the way back to like here.
Yeah.
It's here. Like I have this like this weird. I get angry because I'm like, if you bleed, like how I bleed, then you know what that pain is.
Yeah.
If you love the way you're supposed to love, then you know what love is.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you're angry and you see people who are angry, don't you feel just a little bit of how they feel? And I'm not talking about like I completely understand. It's more like I can see it. And I feel like there's this missing ingredient that we're not doing. And a lot of people keep saying like, you know, it's love. I feel like it's just more of an understanding
Yeah.
of that. You know what I mean?
Because I don't think there's ever going to be a point where everyone's unified. I think that's
Utopian.
it's a hopeful dream.
Yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
naive. There's
Yeah.
never going to be a unified country.
Yeah.
There's never going to be a unified world. There's never going to be unified anything. But we can have a sense of understanding,
Yeah.
a sense of humanity, and
Sure.
that's what art does. It's kind of like a
Yeah.
visceral, from the gut feeling. It's like I can be told my entire life, you know, this is wrong. Like if you're homosexual, that's wrong. If you're black, that's wrong. If you're this, that's wrong. But I can go to a play. I can go to any art. I can hear music, and just feel stuff without acknowledging like all of the thoughts in my head are like this is wrong, but there's something in that art that just drives me to feel a sense of humanity, and just there's a tingle in my brain almost.
Yeah.
And
We
that's
was
when
just talking about that in the car when on the way here when we were talking about Colin Firth's portrayal in A Single Man.
Single man, yeah.
Where, you know, not necessarily like it was told to me that homosexuality was wrong,
Mhm.
but it was just so taboo, especially when growing up. I'm sure well maybe not, but like 7th or 8th grade, everything was gay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like
Word.
if your shoe, like if you
That's
look
gay.
weird, like yo, that's gay.
Yeah.
Like, but I didn't know that it meant
Yeah.
anything other than like that was whack, you
Mhm.
know. And I had to kind of relearn not to say that
Yeah.
word, and then it became like, well then that's not like gay people doing that. That's not right, you know.
Yeah.
Like I learned that in the Bible or like religion or all these different things, right? But then I saw A Single Man, and I'm like, yo, like
That's love.
Yeah, you
that's
just
all
love
it
it.
is.
You love
You're
another
like,
dude.
that's
Like, and-
how I feel.
Yeah, like, who am I-
That's how I feel.
Who
But
am
not
I to-
about him, the guy. But that's how I
Yeah,
feel.
who am I to say like, shit, bro? Like, you want to get down with old boy, then get down with old boy.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean-
I'm over here doing my thing, and that's cool. And I wish everybody had that type of perspective where, like, yo, I don't necessarily understand that because I didn't
Me
go
too.
through it, but shit, do you?
Do
You know what I
you,
mean? Like,
yeah,
that would
do
be
you
the
believe?
most. That would be my type of utopia, where, like, listen, I don't necessarily understand because I'm not
Just
coming from that
coexist.
viewpoint.
Yeah.
But if that's what makes you happy, then I rock with it.
All right,
Yeah, I
I
don't
gotta
know
move on.
if-
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead. Go.
Well, so I don't
Yeah.
know if it's like unity that we should really all like
Strive for.
be like really working for more so than like respecting each other
Yep.
and like embracing your differences and my differences.
Yeah.
So,
You
Yeah.
know?
But don't you think that idea, like that mindset of like, hey, I don't really get what it's like to be you, but I respect what it's like to be you. Don't you think, hopefully, that idea will then bring some sort of unity? Like
Sure,
maybe
yeah,
it's not
sure,
the
definitely.
idea of like what we think unity is now, where we're all holding hands and we're all like
Combined.
singing and we all like understand each other. But
Well,
like,
unity is just such a broad and like obscure
Yeah,
term
yeah.
anyway because like what does that even mean for us?
yeah.
You know? But I think like respect is really at the core of what that means.
Yeah, because like, just to put a pin in this, it seems that
We've been going forever.
no, just to put a pin in this topic, then we'll move on. It seems when the country is at our worst, and when we get attacked per se, you know, Pearl Harbor, 9/11, we do come together, and we do stand unified under that flag, right? But then, like after 9/11, 2 days later,
I mean,
everyone's hating on
It's kind of like,
people that.
to put a pin on my conversation real quick.
Yeah.
Coming together under that kind of circumstance is at a place of fear, which
Yeah.
is a very pure emotion.
Yeah.
However, you're not saying like, oh, you're my brother. It's like, oh, you're with me now because we gotta fight against them,
Yeah.
and we gotta do this together. But as soon as that person, the enemy, is gone, it's like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That's how the kind of
Yeah.
feeling is, because it's
Yeah.
not
True.
it's not a rooted place
Show
to
me your
have
document.
unity,
Show me
quote
you're
unquote,
an
humanity
American.
from.
I think word. You
say
American?
All right, I gotta
You're
move on.
American?
I gotta move on. Okay. Next question. It's a little more specific. It's a little more dark.
Okay.
I still love
So
that time.
wipe those smiles off your faces. All right, violence is a major talking point in this election. One candidate states that the situation couldn't get worse
Okay.
for African Americans and minorities, and that law and order is the correct route. Another says the systemic
Like
racism,
stop and frisk.
like stop and frisk. Yeah, hey.
Fucking stupid.
Another says that systemic racism is what needs to be addressed first and foremost. Now, my question is, what effect has violence, be it gun, verbal, domestic, racial, police, gang, etc.,
Put up gang signs.
what effect has that had on your life and your art?
I think it's caused me to lose a lot of friends.
A lot of friends?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
What?
like
Violence?
people, yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing the sides that people take, seeing the like lack of taking a stance, or
Or the lack of empathy.
or like defending the violence, kind of.
Mhm.
Like, I come from a place, a very small town in the Midwest, full of white middle class Christians, and nothing is like, it's always put like a shooting, a police shooting. It's always the person who got shot. It's always their fault.
Yeah.
From the perspective of like the town where I come from, most people, not everybody there.
Of course, yeah.
But I think in that way, like, it for me caused a real shift in like, I don't, associations isn't the right word, but like, I guess I'll use associations because I can't think of a better word. But like your crowd, the people that you're around, like choosing to be around people who believe in fighting for making this country better and aren't just content to like sit back and watch it happen.
What was crazy to me was it wasn't until that I got into poetry and I started going into these open mics and I started hearing spoken word that I heard about systematic racism. There was never in any point in my education that I ever heard that word.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I was getting it from the OGs that were spitting these poems, and my mentors, and all these different people that
But you knew about it your whole life. You felt it.
Yeah,
you got
exactly.
pulled over
You
for
just
being
didn't
black.
know
But
the word
I didn't know
systemic.
Yeah.
exactly.
Not that you know.
You
Yeah.
just put a
Or-
label on
Yeah,
it.
Like
and
I
it-
remember
so then I-
growing up hearing my dad say like, "Oh yeah, like no, we didn't stop for the cops because if you stop for the cops, that means you got your ass beat instantly, no
Yeah.
matter what it was." But I didn't even put two and two together that
Yeah.
he was getting his ass beat because he was black.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I just felt like,
Yo,
oh,
sound
was
like
he doing,
my-
like
my
what was he go? What was
Hold on,
going
let Trey finish
Oh,
that
sorry.
thought.
Well,
He-
I didn't
he
like there was
done.
there was like certain things that I did, and I didn't realize why I was doing it. When I got pulled over, I'm taking off my hat.
Yeah.
When I see a cop and there's 4 people in my car, we're all taking off our hats. And then there was one time where, and this was like when I got deep into poetry. One time when I'm riding and there's a pack full of cars and it's like just me and my homeboys
Yeah.
or whatever, and we all took off our hat at the same time when we saw a police officer at the stoplight on the other side, and then I was like, what the fuck? Like, why do we just all do that?
Mhm.
But in the conversation kept on going like it was nothing. But then I started hearing about like the prison pipeline system,
Yeah.
and being like, what the what is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh wait, people aren't getting fair education, and so now like it's stemming from education why they're doing poorly, why they are resorting to violence, and why they are now in prison. Like that shit is crazy. to
So
me.
art helped you, poetry helped you
Oh.
understand or like put words to the
What-
shit
what I was going
you
through.
were going through in the
Exactly.
world. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then like TZ just said, it helped you then realize it and kind of escape it.
For sure, because
Yeah.
then I'm like, oh, now I can identify this clear as day,
Yeah.
and know that I'm not standing for this bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And of course, there's certain guidelines that I gotta follow. Just being a black man,
Of course.
looking the way I do, talking the way I do with the music that I represent, but now knowing that I can use my voice to manipulate certain words to have people my age or younger then
Resonates
relate.
with them. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
I feel like for me, it's a little bit slightly different. My parents are woke, like too woke a little bit. And I didn't mean that with a whole heart, because like my dad, and I don't know if Trey got this or even you, is that he would sit me down and he would say, hey, when a police officer stops you, make sure your hands are up.
Yeah.
Say yes sir, no sir. Did you ever get that? That's
I never got that.
See, like
I never
see,
got
like,
the
man.
conversation. I never got
See,
the
like-
sentence. If a
Can-
police officer stops you,
See-
and can I tell you something? I'm 23 years old. I've never been pulled
See,
over.
you
Can I
see-
say something that like piggybacks off of that, and then we'll go? Like, I didn't get maybe that directly because I'm not a male, so
Yeah.
I think maybe my brothers might have got it. But I got the conversation of like the authority figure,
Yeah.
judge,
Yeah.
like anything that was that like when you see it or you go into the courtroom or you go into different things like for a parking ticket for anything, it's like
Yeah.
usually you're seeing like a white woman or a white man, and I got like this conversation about like this is how you act in front of authority, like
yeah.
this is how
Yeah.
you have to do and how you have to answer.
me.
You have to know how to pick your battles
it's
and
so-
how to not
and so
argue
the-
about certain things.
And
And
yeah.
that's crazy to like be here now and I'll be 25 on Sunday.
There it
To
is.
be here now and to like have that conversation and
Yeah.
be like, wow, that's
But
why I
it-
was having that conversation.
but
But
it's
that
like
mental
stuck.
thing,
Yeah.
and I don't
Oh,
even know.
stuck in your
I
head.
don't know
It's
if my parents
stuck.
were like woke in that way. I'm sorry. I don't know if they were woke in that way, but they were having that conversation with me to make me understand something that maybe they weren't even understanding right then, but
But-
maybe they are understanding.
Yo,
now.
there was
No, but like, oh, sorry.
there was points at, like just going off of what you said. My homeboy, he's white. His mom was a cop.
Yeah.
She gave me the rundown on what to do when I get pulled over, and then I wasn't thinking until like later. I was like, how did she know I was gonna get pulled over? Like, I'm not doing nothing. You know what I mean? Like, but she said, yo, when you get pulled over,
Do
these
A,
are the
B,
things
and
that you
B.
need to
Yeah.
do. She said, take off your hat,
take the keys out.
take the keys out the ignition,
Yep.
put it on the dashboard, put roll down the window,
Put your hands
and
up.
put your hands on the
And then- and
in
then-
the in the order that makes sense,
That's-
because like you can't
I've
roll
been
down
in
the
the
window
car
with the
with Trey,
no.
and that literally happened.
Yo.
Where, like we got pulled over we pulled into a drive-through, so we really weren't getting pulled over for much. And we got pulled over, and I saw that happen, and that was my first time being in the car and seeing that happen. We're like, see somebody like have to take out the keys, make sure they look okay, and then be right here at a tent waiting for the
Don't
officer
even look
to
at 'em.
come,
Don't even
so
look
that
at 'em.
you don't offend them.
Because and
Crazy.
it started making me, because she said because you don't want to threaten them, and I'm like,
My
bro,
dad-
listen, I know I got a voice on me, but I'm 5 whatever.
Yeah.
I'm under 6 feet.
Yeah.
Like you short as hell,
My dad
skinny
told me
as hell.
this.
You know what I mean? Like
My
how am
dad-
I threatening you?
My dad told me this. He said, "You fit the description. No matter if you're right or wrong,
Always.
you fit the description.
Yeah.
And I want to see you the next day." Do you know how, like, that's fearful?
Yeah.
I don't want to. I do not want to tell my kids that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm dead serious. I'm not telling my kids that because I'm making a point now that a police officer will not be afraid of me or my kids.
So what do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do? So like, what do we do? What are us? You know, like, do we take off our like? I don't have to do that. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I did
Yeah,
never
yeah.
even learn that set of rules, and
Yeah,
like
So
I've
I've
never
never
been pulled
learned
over in
that
my
set of
life.
rules
But what
It's so crazy.
what do we do to not have to tell our kids
Yo,
that?
I'm gonna tell you a story.
Yeah.
I got pulled. I didn't get pulled over. My friend, it was he's Mexican. I'm black, and there was a white chick in the back, and she's blonde hair, blue eyes, and we're sitting there. We get pulled over in Arizona in Gilbert. For those people that are in Gilbert, like police officers are crazy there, and we get pulled over, and the cop comes over and he tells us, okay, I want you and the passenger to give me your IDs. She's in the back, like saying like, why didn't you do that? And both of us are quiet.
Yeah.
We're like, shut up, like stop talking. You get us in trouble. So like she had to sit back and be like, this is different from when I got pulled over. Because when I get pulled over, I can like flirt a little bit. I can do this and that. Like she still talks about it. This is about like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And like we would continually tell her like, look, like if I get pulled over, it's a different story. Like I have to act accordingly. But I feel like for you, it's just to be like, it's to question it. If you,
Oh, I
if-
question it.
No,
No, I do. I think it's bullshit. I do.
Yeah.
I'm
What
totally.
did you pull me over for?
Yeah. No. Oh, I
That
know.
was illegal.
No, I
Why is
question.
no one stopping me?
I question why I don't get pulled over, because I break the law when I drive. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I hope no one, like, no police officer. I do hope police officer check out Creative Magazine. October 1st, our new issue. Yeah. But like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do to make the change that like you guys have to go through those rules. And I think it goes back to that coexisting thing. I really do. And I think that as artists, we have a dope ass microphone and a dope ass medium to show that unity and coexistence is the way of moving forward. But like, I hope that they listen. I hope that they listen with big ears, but they're probably only gonna watch 4 minutes of our video and then click
No,
off.
they'll watch the entire video.
Yeah, well, half of the country will watch this entire video and then watch it again. The other,
Is
other
the
half won't
microphone
even
we're
click.
talking about social media? Is
Yeah.
that what we're saying?
I think it is. I think it's social media. I think it's your comedy troupe. I think it's your stand-up set. I think it's
Well,
cities
that's like a
versus.
very not. It's a very small microphone. We talk about my stand-up shit.
Yeah, but no, but you know what? Like, but even with that, like, I feel like the way I learned is that there's times like in these spoken word venues where there's literally 9 people.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of voice are you gonna be able to give to these 9 people?
Or go back to that
You
Pay
know
It
what I mean?
Forward movie, though, right? Like,
No, it's
right,
straight up.
those
If
9
you-
people
if you
turn into
affect one
36,
person,
your set's good enough.
Exactly. If you
Yeah.
affect one person, that's going to trickle down to whoever that person
Yeah.
comes in contact with, because now it's living within them.
Yeah.
So I think often people are too scared to say some real shit because they're like, yo, I don't got a platform. But we walk past people every day. So you have a platform at all times. Like,
And everyone has a story.
exactly. All these different, like, we wear brands and we're walking billboards and we are living giving commercials all the time.
Ferrari took out my.
Yo,
I
yo,
know.
yo.
I said that was a shameless plug.
Oh, no, 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 no,
No, I'm
no,
just
no,
kidding.
no.
I'm just kidding.
Nah,
We
it
wear
wasn't.
brands.
He's a rapper, guys. He's a rapper.
Ferrari.
No, no, no.
Yeah. No, I feel you, though. I feel you.
We can
God
sorry,
damn.
sorry to shit on your idea right now.
No, no, no.
That's a new EP.
Yo,
check it
take that out.
Right.
I don't want it to be about me.
No, I know.
It's
But
about-
it is.
I know.
But
It's
it
about
is.
you, though.
It
All right,
is.
I have to move on. I have to
Wait,
move
can I
on.
say
Oh,
something?
yeah. Go ahead. Go.
We talked a lot about like, police, but I think your original question was violence.
Violence.
Yeah.
violence.
And I'm curious to get a man's perspective on this because I wouldn't know from experience.
Okay.
But I'm also from, white, middle-class Christian America, and a lot of people that I know, violence is almost kind of like your passage to manhood. Like when you become a certain age, a lot of kids that I knew got a gun from their parents. And there's you're a man, you have a gun, like you're good to go. So, I mean, has that happened to any of you, or have you experienced violence being
This
your
guy-
passage
Can I
to
just say one thing
manhood?
as a woman?
She said a man.
Wait. It's so crazy that you said this is manhood. A man gets my mom's praying I hope my sons don't find a gun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I mean,
That's
I
one
hope they
aspect,
don't
but
come in contact
I
with a gun.
think my
And I
passage,
pray for my
my
brothers.
Yeah.
passage to manhood was getting my ass whipped by my stepdad for being an idiot. Just that was him showing me violence and not spread violence for nonsensical reasons. I'll teach you how to fight, but that's never the solution. That's never the solution. I was in middle school when my stepdad taught me stuff how to fight because I had gangs. It felt like a gang. It was the most childish thing. It was rockers versus gangsters, kind of thing. But I was scared for my life. These quote unquote gangsters was all because I was in Albuquerque. There was a bunch of vatos hey, what up, fool? What's going on? And they would all want to they would want to kick all my friends' asses.
Yeah.
I was luckily okay just because it was hey, we're gonna fuck Matt Chavez up, fool, but Jeremy's cool. Don't forget about Jeremy, he's cool. Either I was really intimidating, which I highly doubt, or I was very welcoming. But
Or
violence,
tan that day.
huh?
You're just really tan.
Really
that day.
tan that day, yeah. Violence was never an upbringing of my
I think
childhood.
I guess we always there's always that stereotypical joke of black kids getting their ass whooped,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and that being the running joke always, and it always seeming like you damn near need to call CPS how much black people got beat, but at the same time, that's the kind of shit that was able to keep me in line. I'm not saying, you know what I mean,
real talk, yeah.
you got your ass whooped in here, so then you're not acting out of line out there, you know what I mean?
I would turn myself in if I did something wrong because I didn't want to get my ass beat. I'd be like, yo, Mama, see what happened was I didn't do my homework right and I got an F. I just wanted to let you know before you beat me. But yeah, but it's true though. I feel like it's not just home. It's also how society treats you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel
I didn't grow up very hard.
Yeah.
In a hard, I had a nice home I went to. I had a nice meal, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
nice
every
meal.
a nice meal every night.
Oh, you
but-
got chefs? You got chefs? Okay. Okay, you got chefs?
My mom cooked every night.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. Yeah, Donald Trump, you can't walk down the street without being shot, right? No, I'm just kidding. But I am saying, I didn't have to struggle at all. I did not have to, worry about getting my ass beat. Honestly, violence wasn't an initiation into manhood. Being a responsible human being, taking care of the people you love was manhood. And
Yeah.
I think at the core of it, as cheesy as it sounds, love is what's going to bring us together,
Well, I
right?
think that's what-
love for each other.
That's
is
what, but see, that's the thing. We found, I know for a lot of different people, minorities found that in different ways. So that's the reason why people get in gangs.
Yeah.
Because they feel a lack thereof in their home life. So now the big homies is gonna be their brothers.
And the thing
You know what I
is
mean?
is
So
that,
that's the reason why they get in that game, because
And
now
to
it's a
piggyback on that after
it's a
he's
bond.
done. After, but the thing of it is that is this. I'm sorry about that.
No,
I'm
you-
sorry for interrupting.
He's done now.
But I feel because I used to mentor, and I feel like the lack of men
Yeah.
period, is the problem. Because like when it comes to gangs, is because there's not a man
Yeah.
that's there. And I used to do like Parks and Recreation back at home, which is Arizona again. I used to do that.
not being
Not
invited.
Amy Poehler.
Not Amy Poehler. But the thing was is like there was such a lack of men on campus that by the time I got there at junior high, for the junior high kids, and we were there, all of a sudden their attitudes switched. We got the guys started to act a little bit different because how we treated the women. We were like, hey, when you see a girl, you need to be polite. Don't hit her. What are you doing? Why are you pushing her? Well, I like her. I was like, well, you should tell her.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the thing of it is like it's so you may think it's like it's really funny, but it's not because they don't know.
Yeah.
The legit because if I didn't have my dad in my life, I wouldn't be the caring, loving person I am. My mom is a realistic person, and she's the one that will tell me like, yo, that stand up was horrible. My dad's the one who's like, you could work here, you could do a little bit here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he understands like how I see the world. But not knocking on women, but I'm just feel like if there's not a man, either an uncle or a mentor that is there to help shape the mind of a young man, therefore that manhood that you're talking about, violence or whatever it may be, is always going to be skewed.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you
I think I
look-
just heard a gunshot, by the way.
It's
Yeah.
it's hard because I think psychologically, if you see your mom trying to teach you something, like you respect her as a human being,
Yeah.
but you feel somewhere psychologically that this person isn't like me because we
Yeah.
obviously have a clear difference.
Yeah.
They don't understand what I'm going through. They don't understand how I'm feeling, which isn't true, but that's just how we feel as a
But
as
I
a
mean, you know,
person.
coaches are great.
Oh, fucking coaches suck, dude.
And
Coaches suck until
Hold on,
you
I
get to
gotta
high
move on.
school.
I gotta move on. This conversation has been great, but
yeah.
the violence thing's gotta move on. Okay, I have one last question.
Okay.
And this is a little lighter, and it's for everybody, so think of your answer and make sure it's good. I'm kidding. In your life, has there been a piece of art, say a movie, an album, a song, a painting, that has influenced how you see the world, both politically and overall? Has there been one thing that has just been like, that, I don't need to repeat the question, I said it. You get it?
I got it. So
You get it?
anything Public Enemy, y'all need to look up Public Enemy if you guys don't. It's a rap group. Fuck the Police by NWA
Uh-huh.
and All Right by Kendrick Lamar. Those were like the three where like when I listen to them, it's like, oh
I
snap.
still listen to that.
They're so political, but then they're so relevant, and then they have like these beats that relate to where we are within that time. Like, think about in the 80s when Public Enemy came out and they're in New York and crack cocaine like is flooding the streets.
Yeah.
What is that gonna sound like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's Public Enemy. If you think about Fuck the Police and you're in LA and we got all these different things going on with these cops and LAPD and stuff like that, what is that gonna sound like? And then
Right now.
Kendrick just took this very universal approach, and it embodied everybody that heard it to me.
Yeah.
So
That video of
Yeah.
like protesters singing it at the Donald Trump rally,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is tearful. What?
Yeah.
Your song is being sang not because it's playing, but because it relates to what you're feeling.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because if
It's a
that
song
got
of
us,
protest. That's
we gonna be
really
alright.
awesome.
A song
Anybody
of
else?
protest.
Who else got something that has influenced? Yeah, go ahead.
oh, that's easy.
Who's got one?
Yeah, I do. There's one by Stanley Kubrick called Doctor Strangelove,
Yeah.
and it's a satire about war. And if you haven't seen it, watch it. And it's so funny and it's so relevant today. It's talking about the nuke, and it's talking about how these egotistical people are in this one room
Yeah.
and deciding the fate of humanity, and how insane they are about power. And I remember watching it at a very young age, going like, this is still happening. This is really relevant, and I remember in my mind I was like, I want to do something that's like that will
Amen.
last for so long, and talking about something so powerful. There's a guy who's riding a nuke like a cowboy into the ground, and it blows this thing up,
Yeah.
in which it creates World War III. And just to have that simplistic note, which is a very famous scene, to have that and it's still relevant.
Yeah.
And if you look at Trump, some of the stuff that he's talking about is some of the stuff that's in that movie, which is mind blowing to me.
Taylor?
For me, the movie Dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching that, like, I remember that's when it really, I was like, oh my god, there's such a difference between our lives. Like, before my college interview, I, like, woke up and had, like, a really nice breakfast, and I was, like, relaxed the whole day, and my mom drove me, and, like, I had, like, this really nice day. And then, like, to see that movie, like, this person is also, like, a smart person with a lot of potential, and, like, before his college interview, and, like, that was his day, and, like, just seeing that would be judged as like, well, he shouldn't have got himself in that situation. Like, he didn't do anything to get himself in that situation. And I know it's like just a movie, it's not like a biopic or anything.
That's
but
not just
for
a
me-
movie. Shit. We all want to make millions being in movies, right? Hey, what's up, all producers?
Yeah, I'm
Are we doing
talking
just a
about it
bunch
as
of
if
shout
it's
outs?
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's up, Mom? If you haven't watched
No, I
it.
feel you though. And what's interesting about that is you did your college interview before you saw that movie, because that movie just came out like 2 years ago, last year, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, that's crazy that you think that you knew what your main influences were going into college. Probably you knew like what you thought was the most impactful things, and then just this past year you saw Dope, or within the past 2 years, right?
For me,
Yeah.
I can't think of a specific movie or anything that really stands out to me as something that has like shaped my view of the world. But there have been so many paintings or small poems or anything that affects me as a woman, feeling like, okay, I need to stand up and speak out, or as a white person, like, okay, I need to like cut the brakes and chill out and just listen to another perspective.
Yeah.
I remember listening to that Beyonce song Formation, okay, and I listened to it and I was like, whatever, like, this is a song, just another great Beyonce song that I'm probably like gonna listen to in the car for 3 months and then not listen to again. And I went on Facebook and there was this meme that was like, Beyonce said all of this in one song, and like she said it this way. And I remember thinking, I got none of that. And then I texted you and I was like, did you get any of this? And Shantice was like, hell yeah, I understood that. And for me,
So it just
like,
resonated with you.
yeah, it's something as simple as a Beyonce song that is poppy and catchy and whatever, but it spoke to so many people in a way that it didn't speak to me. And who am I to nullify that experience for people because it isn't important, or it didn't affect me the same way.
Yeah.
Because her words were different, because she's got hot sauce, like whatever, in whatever way,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
important to somebody in a way that it's not important to me.
Yeah.
And
But she's a queen, so she can speak to the masses.
yeah, but she's like
The queen.
the woman.
Yeah.
She's the queen.
Yeah.
And
The future is female.
If you haven't watched it, watch it.
but as
Shut up,
influential as that
Jerry.
song was
Yeah.
for Shantice as a black woman or as an African American human, like, there are so many things that are important to me as a woman, feeling like I should be allowed to do what I want and sleep with who I want and drink as much as I want and eat
wear
what
what I
I want
want.
and wear what I want or not what I want, because I have a vagina and 2 breasts. Like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah. I'm
Instead of
not-
asking us when we're ready to have kids. I'm just
When are you ready to have kids?
Anyone else got was something that like really influenced
Oh, really?
how they looked at the world?
I mean, can I not say a piece of art? Can it just be?
Yeah,
like,
whatever.
Okay, so yeah, just because for me, like, art does evoke emotions in me, but for me, my emotions are kind of fleeting, and it's hard for me to grasp on anything concrete. For me, it's just been experience.
Yeah.
I mean, this past 3 years plus, I've worked in an urban comedy club. I hate using the word urban comedy club, just a comedy club with a bunch of black people, a bunch of Mexicans, a bunch of everything. I mean, I've lived in Hawaii with the culture I don't understand. I've had losses in my life, as we all experience in this life. But the thing I noticed with my comedy club, I worked at also like a small media kind of production company that was predominantly black.
Yeah.
It just, the community itself is community, and people welcome you with open arms. It's such like a selfless thing, and when I have conversations with people that are black, not white, because white's a little bit different. It's kind of the same, but a little bit different. Like black people and Mexicans and stuff like that, they're more like selfless, and they want to give you something. If they tell you a joke, you're gonna fucking slap on it because that's fucking. They just gave you that fucking joke, and that's fucking great. And that's so hilarious. We're both enjoying this.
Yeah.
And with my white upbringing, for the most part, it's always been like, I have a joke. I'm giving myself that because that was
I feel you though.
People,
Yeah.
people are just
Art itself has shown you that we can come together, and that color and race and
There's-
sex and all that shit just doesn't matter. It's like it's what we're trying to say. It's not the person that's saying it.
yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
I would have gotten
Unless
there.
you're
I would have
white.
gotten there in a long-winded sentence, but you summed it up.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
The
got anything?
play Indy Amongst the Bronx
Yeah.
that you did with Anthony Marcborough and
Joel Abelson
Joe Aberson.
and Mukesh Patel.
If you haven't seen him, go watch him.
That
Hit 'em
for
up.
me, I hadn't seen a play in a while, so it felt good as an actor, but then it also felt good because then you saw that, like, people's negative opinions on certain things comes from a lack of understanding, and that's just like the bottom line,
Yeah.
like the baseline of what it is,
Yeah. Lack of understanding.
a lack of understanding.
Yep.
And
I
that just really hit home, and it was something that obviously, like, you kind of know, you kind of can figure out context clues, but then, like, seeing it so plain, like, that was the plain, like, the very simplest version of, like, how you can put that play into one sentence, is, like, two people who don't understand where this man is coming from and how they can help him.
Yeah.
And that really just opened my eyes to where my empathy can come from, as far as like where all the negativity can come to, like, my community, or it's just the lack of education and understanding.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Okay.
And it's so important that, like, at the end of the day, like, I don't know, like, we got to figure out how the education system can somehow, how can we, like, bombard it in a way that we can bring back the facts so that people can start seeing, like, okay, this is what happened in the past and this is what's happening now, and, like, how can we come together, because that's what it is.
Yeah. We gotta come together. Amy?
We got to come together through that understanding.
I just want to say, you said "All Right" by Kendrick Lamar, and I just, like, that's probably also mine, and I think that's so cool that that's yours, but it's
Yeah.
also mine, and we're so different.
Yeah, oh, for
You
sure.
know, it's like one of the only rap songs I know all the words to.
No, but it's
But
a
like
good one.
I
though.
know them by heart, you know, and I've seen him in concert twice now.
Lucky.
I know.
Cool.
But each time that song has come on,
Sorry, swerve. Swerve. Yeah, I thought you were done.
Cool. So.
but
Go,
like
go.
back to Unity, you know, every time I've seen him in a concert, it's like everyone in the crowd was waiting for this one song because for some reason it resonates so deeply with each person who, like, actually understands, you know, what he's saying. But I think that's
I
cool.
feel like that song resonates with our whole generation.
Yeah.
I think Kendrick did it right.
Because even if you understand what he's
Alright.
saying or not,
Ha.
it's like, oh, I felt that way too. You
Amen.
know, like everyone has felt oppressed
Yeah.
by something.
If you fucked up and I fucked up, but if God got us,
We're gonna be alright.
Then we're going to be
Exactly.
all right.
Exactly.
All right, cool. That's everything. Thank you guys for watching. We are the Creative Magazine plus some. If you want to be a part of this, we're gonna have more conversations. So please hit us up, join us. And one last thing: register to vote. Vote. Us, we matter. Millennials matter. Every fucking person in this country matters. Register to vote. Vote.